Hi, everyone. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kellie and Jon. Today we have a guest, Rennie Sharp, and we are going to learn all about his journey to creating films, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So you started, you knew you had a passion, but you weren't sure what it was when you were young, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, yes. Too short to play sports. I love sports as a kid, but never was able to really hone that skill enough to take me to the next level. But there was always this burning desire. I love movies. I found myself at the movie theater when I was a kid.
Okay, I got to know what was your first movie that made you go, "Wow"?
Wow, I was thinking about that question when I sent it, and the truth be told, it was the Ten Commandments.
Oh, that was a
Wow,
Yes,
brilliant movie. Brilliant.
yeah,
that's a wow.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
Just the cinematography of it all. I grew up in a religious household. I know we don't want to talk religion, but the biblical aspect of the story was great. But it was just the acting, the colors and so forth. It was very cutting edge for its time.
it,
Yeah.
it
The
was one of
special
the first
Yeah.
effects.
It was
Technicolor.
spectacular. Yeah.
It
Right.
was one of the first Technicolor movies too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that caught my attention, but years later, I just fell in love with theater. Theater and the movies, and I found myself always kind of like always just sneaking off to the movie theater and just staying there all day watching different films all day long.
Awesome.
And
Um,
so this was back in Oakland where you were growing
Yes,
up.
that is
Okay.
correct.
okay. And then
They
you
had
So
a theater.
when did you make your first trip down to LA to see how it actually
Oh,
happens?
wow. I would say when I first started my journey back in 2010. I had an opportunity. Actually, I had an opportunity because I had a buddy that was he was a fellow writer. He took his step, then moved to LA to pursue his dream, and he was very successful. So he invited me out. And while I was there, I got a chance to meet some people and so forth. But I was just more mesmerized just by the atmosphere alone, just being on Hollywood Boulevard, looking at the Grauman Chinese Theater, looking at all the footprints and so forth, the stars and everything, and fantasizing of seeing mine there someday. So it was definitely a surreal moment for me. But the reality of it is, they call it show business for a reason. When we get past the glitter and so forth, the business aspect was the one thing I wasn't anticipating more than anything.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is
yeah,
a business.
the business is being back in the music business when I was in that. They used to say, it really is only 20% talent, 80% business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which was kind of heartbreaking for me at first because it really did stagnated my pursuit, so to speak, because as you know, as an independent filmmaker, it always comes down to money, raising funds to actually do the next project. And that's always been the catalyst. So if you don't have named individuals in your project, nobody's really wanting to fund the project, so forth. So I've been always trying to find creative ways to raise money. I'm always coming up with new ideas to try to raise money. Um, when I started years ago, it was easier to get people that was kind of like at my level, just trying to break into the business and willing to work for free. But I also learned like that you don't never really get the best work when you get that. So I really try to pay the actors, the crew, everybody that's part of my productions. I want them to get paid. I don't mind not paying myself, but I want the best out of everyone. So I will always try to struggle, scrape, borrow, and steal to try to raise funds to get it done.
Yeah.
Um,
I know what you mean because I don't know how much you know about me or Kelly, but with me, I've I'm a screenwriter. I've besides writing books, I've written screenplays, and You know, people love the screenplays; they love them, and
Right.
people who claim to be producers, because you know anybody can go to a printing shop and get business cards that say producer on it.
Yes,
All of
correct.
a sudden, they're producers, and they would say to me, "Oh, I love your script. I don't pay for options, but I love your script. Who do you have attached? Do you have startup money?" And I go, you know, my card says
Right.
writer.
Why do I need you then? I have all
My
Exactly.
that. I
card
have the
says
money and the
writer.
talent.
Exactly. If I
You
could do
know,
all that, I don't
your
need you
card
at all.
says producer. I
Hmm.
I I gave you a script. I have the script. I did what I'm supposed to
I'll
do.
do your job.
It's not my job to get somebody attached. It's not my job to find upfront
That is
money or
correct.
startup money. That's your job. And of course, with me, I got cocky after a little while and said, "Don't even think about asking me to give you my script for an exclusive option without you putting money up to
That's
show
absolutely. I had to learn that
that
the
you're
hard way. That's
invested."
right. That's right.
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No
I
problem.
just wanted you to
Oh,
know, you know, I know what you're dealing with because
right.
Feels your
you have
pain.
to come up with money.
And
Yep.
pain it is. Yes. I
Well, I
think.
I want to know a little bit more. Like, what's your first project? Like, what kind of projects have you
Oh,
done that really got
well.
your appetite going?
Well, my first short film was a urban love story. It was shot in the backdrop of Bronx, New York. It was about a young African American male meets a feisty Latina who was part of a gang, and it was almost like it was a modern day Romeo and Juliet meets West Side Story, which happens to also be one of my favorites also. So I always loved that story. Without the music, I always loved the story. You know, the two different cultures coming together, and through all of that adversity, love is the main key that kind of bring people together, even tragedy, so to speak. So that was kind of like what the story was about.
Awesome.
It was a very fun experience. We shot that in July. I'm not in July, in January
Oh,
of 2011. Yes,
in
that
New York.
year.
Oh,
Here's the funny thing about that. That year, we had a certain burst of heat wave for almost a month,
oh,
all through December, and then just as the year changed, and we was getting ready to go out there, it dropped 10 below zero. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So, but we was already vested, couldn't permits are all paid for, so forth. So we had to shoot. But everybody was game. It was fun. It was a fun experience. It was my first time on set. I learned a lot myself because I don't have any real formal training. I didn't go to film school, so my passion desire has always been carrying me more than anything. But I learn as I go. So my big takeaway from that is preparation. That was my big take from that. Learning just what pre-production is all about, and how to actually formulate that the correct way moving forward.
yep, yep. Well, what was your role in that production then? Were you the producer, director?
I was the director and producer. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and writer.
Okay.
And writer. I wrote the script as well. So
Well,
I
did
wore
you?
three different hats to that. So it was pretty much I was like a one-man production producing staff anyway.
Yeah.
But
So you
it was
actually
fun.
stepped into it in the business
Mm-hmm.
at that level. I mean, you didn't work for a production company for a while.
No,
To,
I no, I was not fortunate to find. I tried to get like an internship early on, at a production house of this, so I can kind of like get my feet wet and learn more. That just didn't happen for me. And having to support myself, so I worked for a good part of that time. I have a legal background, so I work in a law firm, so to speak. So that kind of kept me fed while and it became too comfortable. after a while, I let a lot of years slip by because, for one, I was afraid to jump out there, not knowing what to do, but also just not knowing how to actually break in.
I would imagine that your time also in that legal background, it
Right.
helped you with contract negotiations or
It did.
writing contracts,
Yes.
or reading and signing them from
Understanding the
other
importance
people.
of all the legal aspects of the
Yeah,
business.
I actually worked for an IP firm, so they did copyrights and so forth. So yes, I did learn a lot about that early on, and how to protect my work, so to speak. So that was a great experience learning that before I actually got out there. But before I actually tried to do my first short, I did volunteer a lot. Try to work with other productions, just try to get come in as a PA, so to speak. I even volunteered a lot for the film week with IPF. So I got a chance to do that with them for a few
Okay,
years.
listen, not all of our audience is film savvy.
What's IPF?
Right.
So PA
Right.
is production
Production
assistant,
assistant, correct.
and
And I was
and then,
low on the total pole.
okay, and then
Unloading.
the other acronym that you used.
Right.
IPF.
That was independent film project. They are based in Brooklyn, so they actually they host the film conference every year in New York.
Okay.
So I got a chance to meet a lot of like Ryan Coogler. I met him. I met quite a few named actors there while I was more like an usher more than anything there.
Did you
Yeah.
ever take any acting classes or study acting to learn how
as you read in my bio, I did have some dark years early on in life. And while doing that, I got a chance to actually start a repertory theater. And there I did some acting. And that's where I realized that my true calling was directing, so to speak. But yeah, I did enjoy acting. But I always wanted to be a director. So I always want to be the guy to kind of bring it all to life, so to speak.
So did your step into the industry, did it happen back in Oakland or did it happen in the city in New York?
It happened here in New York. I think the bug, I was bitten by the bug in Oakland, but never really was able to kind of like put a finger on it, so to speak. So, but when I was being here in New York, and it was funny because during the recession of 2008 is when I finally got the courage to actually step out there. I working for a law firm and I got laid off. And I was so upset about that because I did some great work for them, and that was my reward, being laid off. So I said, you know what? I'm tired of working for others and making them rich while I am not really pursuing what I really makes me happy. I pulled out all my stuff and I just kind of like dove in. The internet is a great tool to learn. You can learn a lot from the internet. So I started doing a lot of research and so forth, found a lot of those organizations that I can actually volunteer to work at, and just getting out there.
Yeah. It was a gift probably, because sometimes
it was
that push, because like you said, you were comfortable and maybe you could
yes,
never be where you are
and
now.
that's what it was. I had became very comfortable, and I was letting my true dream pass me by. So when I got laid off, it kind of made me stand up, say, if now is the time, go after it. So, and I did, and I'm still pursuing it. I had someone ask me,
was there an actor, a performer, somebody who, when you were a kid, that knocked your socks off, and as
wow,
opposed to
man,
where they are today?
it's so many. It's so many.
Yeah.
I grew up in the era of musicals, drama. You got James Cagney, you got Fred Astaire, all those guys. I love musicals, by the way. So I grew up watching those a lot. But if I was to speak of anyone now and today, like De Niro, Washington, the list goes on and on. So they all inspire me because I love performances more than anything. Yeah, because I feel like a great actor, if they can invoke any kind of emotion in the audience, they've done their job well. And I felt that connection with all of them at one time or another. So yeah, so those were my most influential.
It's funny that you say James Cagney, because the majority of America thinks of him as that tough guy gangster
Right.
actor.
And it wasn't just that. That's
First
correct.
thing I tell them to do is watch Yankee Doodle
That's
Dandy.
right. That's right.
I think he even had that movie with Bob Hope, the Foys, the Seven
That's
Foys,
right. That's
where
right.
he repeats that role
Yes.
of George M. Cohan.
Yeah.
Uh, and they do that great dance scene.
I
Uh,
love
Fantastic.
those movies. I used to love the dancing, the music. That's the choreography in that alone was.
Yes.
Yes. So I used to, that was like my favorite. I used to sneak into the living room late at night when everybody is asleep, turn on the TV,
Oh.
turn it real low, and watch these shows. And it was just amazing just to watch all that stuff. I used to tell my mothers one day.
Well, okay. So after you did the short, with the love story, the urban love
Right,
story,
right.
then what came of that? What did you do with it?
Well, we actually I got it. The first thing was I was showcased. I made it into a showcase. Um, and it came over well, actually. I got a chance to meet with his name is Michael Pinkney. He was one of Spike Lee's proteges. He was actually showcasing at the same venue, and he loved the project, and he was telling me, he was the one who encouraged me to go back and further develop that into a full length feature film, which I did. I wrote a full length script for that, and that's the project. That's one of the projects I'm looking to shoot next year, the feature film of that.
Okay.
So I right now I'm still kind of like, again, trying to find producers that can actually raise money, bringing them on board, um, because it's a big deal, and I want to be able to do that on the right. I want to bring some real meat to it, and I also want to bring some real talent to it because it's a great story. So I just don't want it to sit on the shelf.
Who
So
would the
so
actors
you
be?
want to bring
The
great.
Latina
Sorry,
and
Kelly.
then
Go ahead.
the African American boy.
Well, I've spoken to quite a few actors already in regards to see if they would be interested in playing. Actually, when I wrote the script, I had them in mind. So obviously, I reached out to them first. I got a chance to talk to Melanie Diaz, who I thought was great. I also spoke with April Hernandez, who also both read the script and loved it. It's just timing. For Melanie Diaz, she had just got finished doing Fruitville Station, so her management company didn't want her to do another urban film right after that. So she's somebody I definitely want to circle back to. And April Hernandez, she was going on. She just was on her own journey, and so she felt that the project was a little too racy for her.
Okay.
So she declined it. But again, you never know. There's a lot of young talent out right now that I think would be ideal for the part. So, but like you said, funding is everything because that's the
Okay,
first thing they want to know.
let's
Do you have your
let's make
budget in place?
believe. Let's make believe you find somebody or an investment group that says,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, Rennie, we believe in you. You got $12 million. Who's your wish list for this script?"
Woo! Wow. My wish list. Whoa, man. I would cast Michael B. Jordan as my lead, my male lead, and Christian Serrano as my female lead. And I would love to have, even though he's been on a bit of a sabbatical. I haven't seen him in anything in a while, but I like Yasin Bey, formerly known as Most Def,
Mm.
um, to play the father. And I actually spoke with her also, Cynthia Shepard. I spoke with her. She read the script also. I mean, not Cynthia, Sherry Shepard. She loved the script, but again, she was asking me, did I have my budget in place? So if you get your budget in place, come and see me. So, which is always the case.
Yeah.
But I also have but that was my wish list as far as my main cast. And there's some supporting people I would definitely love to bring on. Um, yeah, so it would be nice. It really
Well,
would be nice.
I want your opinion on something. Now, a friend of
Hmm.
mine, you may or may not know of him. He lives here in the city, but he worked in Hollywood a lot. He apparently he's just had a recurring role in, I think, the fifth season of this episodic, which I heard of, but I never watched until he told me to watch it. His name is Willie Carpenter. If you ever get a
Okay.
chance,
Okay.
Willie's a dear friend of mine, and he said, "John, have you watched Godfather of Harlem?"
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I had not. Um, and then I started watching.
It's a great series.
Wow,
It's a great
wow!
series.
I had no idea of. I mean, granted, they do embellish a
Yes.
lot
I was
because
going to say that they have
it is the
embellished some
true
of that story.
story
That's correct.
of what's it of the guy who ran the drugs and his
Come
own
on, Bumpy
crew
Johnson,
in
right?
Harlem.
He pulls it. Yes.
Buffy
Yeah.
Johnson, who was in
Right.
with Malcolm X, and
Yes.
um, and who is the politician? Oh man, I'm
I forget
blanking
his
on.
name. I forget the politician's name,
Yeah,
but
but and how they worked with the five families of the
mhm.
mafia to try to keep peace among themselves, but they were warring amongst themselves, and I just never knew any of this. And I sort of come from an Italian background in New Jersey. So
Right.
you would imagine I'd be hip to this stuff. Not a clue.
It was a
And
big that was a big struggle for the Harlem back then. That's correct. So
it and
some of
but
that
the
story is true and
show
some
is
of it is
fantastic.
false.
This show is I'm up
Yes.
to like the fourth season and I can't stop watching it.
Well, Forrest Whitaker, he is a great
Oh,
actor also. He just blows.
wow.
I mean, I think like any project that he's attached to, he blows it away every time. So I think he definitely took the show to another level. Um, I haven't really followed it as much. I've seen a few episodes here and there. I always promised myself that I would just binge watch it because I do a lot of that binge watching shows. Because yes, it is a great series. I just got a lot on my plate when it comes to
Oh
things
yeah,
I
yeah.
watch. I normally watch the drama that I'm writing, because I get inspiration from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beyond my short, my second project, which is also my other baby, which is also something of a episodic series, is called The Undetected. It's an action thriller. That's it. That is an action thriller. It's in the same vein as Born Identity meets 24. So which
To do that,
which
you'll need to be online.
which
That's a
was
great combination.
one of my favorite shows when it was on TV. So
Right.
getting an opportunity, and anyone that have seen, because we shot a proof of concept of that, and that is also another project that has been in several film festivals already.
The
Um,
the politician I was thinking about was Adam Clayton Powell.
yes, yes,
Yes,
okay, yeah,
yes.
right.
Great, great, great the way they mix all that together. And I don't know how much of it was true, how much of it was embellished, but they
Well,
make
he
it
was
all
around
so
that time. He was around
yep,
that time. I don't know how much he was
accurate. Yeah,
involved in that world to be able to kind of converse with these guys on a regular basis, but he was around that time, that's for sure. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot of embellishing in telling that story, but just to make it entertaining, more entertaining. So, but
exactly.
it is a great series though. That's what I always try to shoot for. That's what I've been trying to shoot for with this last project. As I said, we were able to not only make it into several film festivals, but we also entered the script into a HBO's um, TV series pilot contest, and we came in third place there.
Oh,
So that was pretty cool.
That's not bad.
Um, Wanting, so we again, it's always I always feel like this, and it seemed like this always been somewhat of the makeup and chemistry of this, being in the right place at the right time with the right project and having the right people aligned with that project is when you actually get your break. So I'm always trying to remember that. I think of this young kid, Ryan Coogler, who before Fruitville Station did nothing but a short film, but then all of a sudden now he's a household name, and he's and every last one of his projects has been outstanding, but that first project is what put him over the top. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time, knew the right people because he knew the kid Oscar Grant's family. That's how he was able to tell that story. He got permission from the family to actually do that story. So, and it was, as you know, it wasn't nationwide news, but it was very hot in California when that happened. Um, so again, the right time,
yep.
right project, and everything else. I mean, as a matter of fact, Forrest Whitaker was involved in that project.
Oh,
Yeah, yes, he was part of the producing staff that helped him get the funding that he needed to shoot that.
huh.
Well, one of the crazy things in this business is how you bust your ass for a decade, and then you finally make a name for yourself, and they're like, "This guy came
Overnight.
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He
Right,
just,
right. Yeah, exactly. Like nobody heard of you until you make it. So,
yeah,
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 and
that's true.
yeah, I had someone ask me that a while back. Say 10 years down the road and you still haven't got there, are you going to give up? No, no, I can't give up. I vested way too much to just walk away. I
yeah. I mean, your 10 years or however many years,
Right,
that's your apprenticeship. That's where you're
exactly.
learning.
Yeah.
You're, as they say on the street, you're making your bones. You
Yeah,
know, that's
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of stories to tell once I get there. So I got some really good stories to tell. So yeah, I'm paying my dues and I'm just being diligent, very persistent
Well, if
and
you
I'm
have some stories, I have a question. So what so far has been your biggest disappointment? Like what fell apart or didn't go the way it was planned or um
oh, wow, okay.
that you're
Um
gonna look back on one day and you're gonna laugh. You're gonna go, ha ha ha.
yeah,
Look at me now.
absolutely. I was absolutely. So it's like one thing after another happened. So, and this is true. I was homeless, still working on my project. I get hired to direct a project while going through that. Didn't really want to do the project because my focus couldn't really be there, but I liked the project enough to want to get involved. I brought everything to it. I hired my crew because I got a set of people I work with a lot, so I brought all of them on board. The producer did everything against my better wishes. For one, I didn't get a chance to look at none of my locations before we shot, which
Mhm.
which is unheard of.
Yeah.
As a director, I got to be able to see my vision in the location. I couldn't even see that, and then it became like one thing after another. I ended up leaving that project because I felt like the producer was making decisions that I could have been making, I should have been making, and because they were close friends with the executive producer who was putting the money up,
Mm.
I had no voice. So I just felt like it was time to just step away. Um, but as I said, I was going through all that at the time, trying to find a place to live. I
Yeah, that's a
literally
lot.
I was literally homeless for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, but in all of that, I stayed focused and I kept working. I kept working on my projects every day. Because I felt like, again, going back to that paying my dues,
Mm.
this is me paying my dues, paying homage to what my craft. I had to go through all that to appreciate once I got there.
Yep.
So yeah, my film experience is vast and wide, and it's not all pretty, it's not all glamour, but I learned something from each one of those processes every day.
Yeah. Well, that's good. On your way. So you have two projects in the planning works, right?
That's
Plan.
correct.
Let's
Yes.
say let's say somebody, the young Rennie, the
Hmm.
15-year-old, 18-year-old Rennie is watching this. What would you say to them is the best advice you can give them where to start to end up doing what you're doing, to produce, make movies, films?
Well, I would say more than anything, if you're able to go to school, go to film school, learn the mechanics of filmmaking because there's
Okay.
a lot to it. It's more than just standing behind the camera saying action. It's more than just standing out acting out a character, because for for an actor, the preparation is deep.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really committed, not just coming out regurgitating words. Because there's an emotion that you bring in the dialogue. A real actor does that.
Right.
That's why we have A-listers, B-listers, and C-listers. So, and that's the difference between them. These guys and these ladies, they know how to bring it every time they perform.
Yeah.
So I would tell a young Rennie, go to school, learn your craft, really learn your craft, learn what you really want to do because, filmmaking is vast. There's a lot of aspects to filmmaking.
Right.
You may want to be a cinematographer, you might want to be a sound guy, you might want to be an editor, all those
Yeah.
things you have to learn, and the only way to learn it is actually being in it, learn to get the formal training of it, and then get some internship under your belt and get your feet wet. And I think that is the best way to put yourself in the best position to be successful as a filmmaker in general.
Okay. That sounds like good advice. Yeah. And find and I would say networking and making connections and
Well,
knowing
I
people that
think all that comes
together.
with that. I think
Yeah.
all that comes with that because even when you go to film school, they like I said, you're doing an internship. You know, part of the internship is networking
Hmm.
because they have events that they go to, and you meet all kind of people at these
That's true.
events.
Yep.
So yes, and I did that. I did the networking thing for a while too. The one thing I learned, what I took from networking here, especially in New York. Ooh, New York, it's like crabs in a barrel. Um, you got this venue and it's hundreds of people around, milling around. They all talking, and if you're fortunate to find yourself in front of a producer that can actually make something happen, you're talking to them before you know you got 5, 6 other people in the wow, just jumped in on the conversation and kind of steered the conversation from you to them. So and I just I understand it, but I just never saw it like that.
Yeah.
My idea of filmmaking was like, the whole collaborative nature of it, the glamour of it, the magic of bringing cinema to life. That was my That was always my vision of it. I just didn't see the other aspect of it, as I was coming up in the ranks, it's a very tough business,
Yeah.
um, and it can be very cruel at times as well.
There's a
Because
lot at stake. There's a lot of
yes,
money involved, and that's
yes,
why the best people rise to the top,
yes,
because you have to be the best to get, to get to
yes,
that point.
I
Um,
agree with that.
yeah.
I met someone one time at an airport, just by chance. My flight was delayed. Yeah, she missed her flight, so we ended up having to wait for later flights. Not knowing that this lady, we ended up talking, and at the time I was fundraising to shoot The Undetected. Um, and we ended up talking about the project. She was so excited for me. By the time I landed in New York, she had donated to my project.
Aw, that's so
And that
That's
was so
great.
amazing, right?
yeah.
So I reached out to her to thank her personally, because wow, I'm perfect stranger in the airport. We just talked about this project. She found the link and made a donation. So I was like, wow, I had to say thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but she also expressed wanting to be so much involved, not knowing that she had the resources to actually fund this project. I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, wow.
And she wanted to be more involved.
Wow.
And yes, I came so close of getting this project so funded. It was, because I had to be honest with her. She came to New York to when we had a huge casting call. I mean, hundreds of people showed up for the casting. This was the real deal. I was really, I had some other producers. I had two good leads. I was like, wow, this is exciting. She asked me the day that we was going to deposit the money into the escrow account. Um, because she said she had friends that wanted to be involved, so they all gave her checks for this,
Wow.
to invest. And she asked me, I'm a little nervous because I don't want to lose my friend's money, and I understand that.
Right.
But she was basically asking me, can I guarantee a return? And I told her, wow.
Never do that.
I said, what's it? As much as I would love to tell you yes, I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
I would be lying to you if I told you I can guarantee a return. This is the most riskiest investment you will ever make. But I feel that with the project that we have, the people that we had just cast so far, because we weren't finished casting, um, and if I have all the resources I can, this is going to be an amazing project. And
Right.
I will say this: we're being more of a position to guarantee that if we can actually do it the way I'm envisioning this thing happening,
If you have the money that you need.
right? But she was so nervous, she backed
Uh,
out. So,
uh,
so I understand,
yeah.
and that was like so heartbreaking because I
Yeah.
was that close. I was that close.
Yeah.
Project, to the fullest. But
Yeah.
it happens, again, right time,
But
right place.
there are so many people that have a ton of money and they would love to be part of Hollywood and they
Right.
would love to invest. It's just you got to, be in front of those people, find them.
Yes. And that's the always thing, trying to find those people. That's the hardest
Mhm.
part.
Yeah.
But it would be wonderful to be in front of those people. Because I did go to a couple of pitch fests before.
Uh-huh.
So learning how to pitch my project, that was, and I went to somewhere they actually gave me feedback, the things that they would hope to hear as they would be investors, would want to
Right.
hear. So I learned a lot from that as well. But yeah, it would be awesome to be
Yeah, I
in
hope
front
you,
of somebody like that,
yeah.
that would want to, and hopefully maybe somebody like that will see this podcast
Yeah.
and want to get in touch because I do have a partner who has she's been my rock because she has I've learned a lot from her because she's been in the business a long time. She's been in the business almost 30 years now. So she knows the business and she also know the bull. So she was able to always steer us away from that nonsense and keep us on track. But I would love to get this project done, just for her too, because she did a lot of work on this project with me, to get us to where we at right now.
What's your website? Because I'll put it up under your name. So we'll put your name and then film producer is your title.
Right. Yeah, you can put it up under the I actually have a Wix website. It is a the undetected shortfilm.com.
Yeah, and so then people can see a sample of your work. Is there
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll be able to see, you actually be able to see the proof of concept there, along with some other projects that I have in development right now.
What is it again? The undetectedshortfilm.com?
Yes, let me make sure I'm giving you the right
Okay.
web is.
So, okay, what do you think your next project that you'll be able to bring to completion will be?
Wow. Okay.
I know.
That is always a big question mark for me because I'm still like working on these two projects, trying to get them there. But I have a few projects that I have in development that I'm still working on. One being actually I love westerns. So I
Cool.
grew up watching westerns also. So my mother got me hooked on westerns when I was a kid.
I
So
mean, don't get me wrong, man, but considering who you are, the fact that you like those old
yes,
musicals.
old
Yeah, you
spaghetti
seem too
westerns. That's
young.
right.
You seem so young to
That's
like that stuff.
It's hysterical because I got to tell you, I never liked westerns until I saw a movie that, considering westerns, is rather recent, even though it's probably 25, 30 years old now, called Silverado.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
Yes.
Danny Glover and
That's
Kevin
right. That's
Costner,
right.
and I just can't watch that movie enough. I
That
think
was
it's
a that was
fantastic.
a great film. Actually, that was a great
Yes,
film.
yes.
Those guys were young too, and it was just a great movie. Silverado, but I go back further.
Oh yeah.
I go back further to like the Dirty Dozen, the Magnificent Seven. There were some great lines in that movie. I still remember to this day. James, that was an all-star cast, by the way. James Coburn, Yul Brynner,
Yep.
Charles Bronson, Steve
Yep.
McQueen. Oh my God, Eli! The list goes on. So, and the youngster on the set on the cast was Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen was kind of like the rookie compared to these guys, and he stole the movie. I read an article once where they was talking about when they was making that movie, he stole the movie from them.
And the funny thing is, Steve McQueen's first movie was The Blob.
Yes, that's correct.
And
That's
he
right.
had come out of that low budget, one step above Roger Corman film.
Yes,
And
Steve
so that,
McQueen,
but
boy.
I want to leave you with this great thing. If somebody ever says to you, an old good friend of mine, he's no longer around anymore. His name is Richard Bacallion. They called him Dickie Bacallion, who did make all his bones in those early Roger Corman films. But then he eventually, became the cop in Chinatown that winds up shooting Faye Dunaway at the end of the
Okay.
movie,
Wow.
and just so many other great movies that Dickie was in. And he had a great line. People would ask him, and he made 50, 55, 60 movies. He was one of the gunmen in the in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Okay.
Okay, I mean,
Oh,
it's
all
just that
right.
he made 3 movies with Frank Sinatra, and he may not have been the greatest actor, but he had the face that you
And
always, this
that's the
guy was
look.
either
That's what they look
cop
for.
or gangster in a movie,
That's
one or
right.
the other. And he had a great line that he told me. He said, people would always ask me, you made all these movies. What was your favorite? And he says, my favorite, the next one.
Uh-huh.
That was it. That was
That's
it.
right.
What was your favorite movie?
Always looking
The
forward.
next one.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and that's that, always take that with you. That when people, after you have, movies under your belt, which of those were your favorite ones? The next
My
one
next
I
one,
made.
right? My next one is coming out, right? That's correct. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, my Western, and I also have a suspense thriller also that I love. I'm developing as well, and I also have a horror that I'm writing as well. So these are all the dramas that I grew up loving. So and for me, horror today, other than yeah, I guess you can put The Walking Dead in that category because that is a show that blew me away because of the camaraderie of the story, the evolution of each one of the characters in the story. I
well,
thought that
there's
was amazing. It was amazing. It was from a comic book. That was a very good, well written, well produced, well directed, and well act series. I I still watch it to this day. I literally watched that series over and over because it's a great
and
story.
well, I could tie this in, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that shot mostly in Georgia?
That's correct. That is
And
correct.
and and the largest film studio in America right now
It's
is
in
in Georgia.
Georgia. That's right. It's in Georgia. That is correct.
Wow. I didn't know that. What's the studio?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
the guy who what's his name? The one who does the Medea movies.
Tyler
Yeah.
Perry?
Come on,
Tyler
Tyler
Perry?
Perry. Yeah,
He
Tyler
Love
Perry
owns
him.
it.
he built his own he built his
I
own
knew he did.
theater. Now this is a guy who found his audience early on in his career, and he
He's a good guy.
parlayed that to where he's at right now. The guy he's everywhere. I'm not a huge fan of his work, but I love his business savvy. He's very smart. Um, he had a exclusive deal with Lionsgate for almost a decade and a half, and doing Madeira, okay, and that put him in a position to build his own studio in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and he's he he's part owner of BET. He's done a
I
lot of
didn't know
major
that.
stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Wow. Okay.
BET is a cable based network. So, and they never had other than the 80s, they started losing their ratings a lot. So that network was almost disappearing. So Tyler Perry came on and he brought a ton of different projects to that network. Now BET is being watched um
By everybody.
now and again. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he brought life into that just like he did with OWN as well. He did the same
Well,
thing with OWN. So the
let's
man
let's
is,
let's say that in 25, 30 years, we could say the same about you.
I would love that to be that. I would love that to be
Awesome.
the case.
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
that to be the case.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I would love to be able to do at some point, to be able to be a mentor to the younger up and coming filmmakers and telling them that, every story counts. I was told once before, right? You tell what you know. I tell my stories, my experiences, the things that I've gone through, and there is a audience for that because we all experience things every day. We all
Well,
come from different
what
walks of life,
what
but we
I've had
always
a lot of
experience.
success with was uh, was being able to do exactly what you said. I would go to, I still do it when I get asked by various mayors and stuff like that. I go to high schools and I talk to kids about screenwriting or books that I've written. And I always throw in, kids, I grew up on these streets. If I could do it, you could do it.
Absolutely, that's correct.
And you pass along that information to these young minds.
Absolutely.
And granted, I sit through a lot, and I do it at community colleges. I do it at a lot of high schools. I talk to juniors and seniors who really don't know what they want to do when they get out of high school.
Right.
And unfortunately, especially today, a lot of kids, they don't have the funding, they don't have the grades to make it to college.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
and they but they don't want to not do something. They want to follow a dream. They may not know what the dream is yet. Not everybody does. And there's nothing wrong with you offering at these schools to go there for one day and
Right.
talk to
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. I would love to be able to do that now, just to kind of give back. Um, Mainly because I remember when I was in school, we didn't have that. We didn't have someone come to talk to us. I think I started learning um, my experiences of getting like inspiration and so forth was basically all through my 20s. And that was during a time where I I I really found myself. I found who I really was, and I embraced that. And that was around the time that I started that theater, um, and that was enjoyable. I had someone ask me while I was because I, as you said, you read my bio, so I had someone ask me for my autograph after one of
Oh,
those
yeah.
performances. He says, "Yo, I want to hold on to this because someday you're gonna be a big star. I see it in you." He said, You're really good." I'm like, "Wow." That really blew me away. I'm like, "Wow, really? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that." Um, so yeah, just having
You should
someone
do
give
that.
you
You should present yourself to some local school. I mean, please forgive me for not knowing, but I'm sure that there are film schools in Manhattan. I'm sure probably in Brooklyn.
well,
There's
they have
probably
a whole
film
ton
schools.
of them. They have a whole ton of them in New York. That's the whole
Then
thing.
with your resume, you should go knocking on the door of, I don't know if the principal, the dean, whatever it might have been called, and just get in there and go, look, this is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. If and it's an old story. I
Right.
say it myself many times. You could sit and talk to a classroom of kids who you think or they think they want to do what you're doing, but if you affect one kid,
That's right.
just one,
It just
and
takes one.
motivate
That's right.
them to move forward, that's a
Yeah.
lot. Okay. And we'll wrap up. I'll tell you my first story of when I got asked for my autograph. Okay, and how it affected me. And then we'll wrap it. It was around 1973, before you were even born. But it
Oh,
was
whoa,
around.
wait. So it's funny you said that, right? Because y'all both said something earlier about
You look
youth.
young. Yeah.
Yes, I'm 62 years old.
Oh,
So
wow. You don't
I
look
would
it.
not
I
have imagined that.
yeah,
Okay.
so I was around in
Don't
73.
look it.
Okay,
Oh,
so it's 1973. I'm already known in New Jersey as a musician,
Okay.
and I had my day. Oh no, the chair that I'm sitting on, the hydraulic just lowered. I don't know why. Maybe,
it's not
but
noticeable. We
And
can
it's not
anyway.
noticeable at all. I didn't see
Yeah.
Okay,
anything this time.
so it's 1973. Now you got to understand, my hair was longer. It was not this color. It was quite lighter. And I had my John Lennon glasses on,
Okay.
and I'm sitting on the beach. Literally sitting on the beach in Carmel, in
Okay.
California, and I got my Ovation guitar, and I'm just strumming away. And because I'm Italian, we all wore gold rings,
Right.
and I had a really nice gold ring on my hand,
Mm-hmm.
with my initials on it, JD. So, and I'm on the beach, and I'm just minding my own business with my long, light brown, almost blondish hair, wire rim John Lennon glasses on, strumming my guitar. And this girl, who might have been maybe 13, came up to me, and she sat there and she stood in front of me, and she listened to me strum, and she goes, "Can I have your autograph?" And I was like, sure. I
Wow.
didn't know why this kid would, because nobody knew me in Carmel.
Wow.
I was like,
That's
this
also
is
dope.
great. This is great. And she goes, "I'll be right back. I'm gonna go up to my parents. The car is there, and I'm gonna get a piece of paper and a pencil." Sure, okay, great. I'm sitting there. She comes running back with a piece of paper and a pen, and I write John D'Amore on. And she looked at it and she goes, "Oh, I thought you were John
John Denver.
Denver."
Wow.
And she crumpled up the paper, and threw it on the sand, and I was crushed.
Wow.
Crushed.
Oh my God.
So that was my first memory of having somebody ask me for my
wow.
autograph.
Oh yeah,
And
that would have been crushing. Yeah, that would have been crushing for me as well.
and she walked away, she walked
Wow.
away, and I'm like, oh, and I just took my guitar and I dragged it in the sand to my car, or my rental, and that was it. And that was that memory that burnt a hole in my head.
Wow.
And you could trust that every day that I heard "Sunshine on My Shoulder," the first thing I did was hit that button on the radio and kill that song, or whatever John Denver song might have come on for the rest of my life.
That's so heartbreaking. Yes. Wow.
Yes, it was. So Rennie, we want to thank you a lot
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
having
good
me.
luck to you. I hope you get some funding. And I'm going to send you an email and ask you for a website that we
Yes.
can use, that
Yes.
we can put up there so people can see some of your work.
I appreciate
Sound
it.
good?
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Rennie. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Pleasure
Yeah.
having you.
Same
on.
here.
Interesting story, and I'm sure some of our viewers would be really interesting to watch you make it.
Absolutely. And when
Yes,
when
I'm
you
still-
get
I'm
something,
We want you to
still
come
plugging
back
away.
when you get your
we
film
could
done.
watch.
I
Come back
I
on
would
the
love to
show.
come back. Yes. Yes.
It was
Absolutely.
a pleasure.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rennie. Bye-bye.
All right.
All views expressed in this video belong to Kellie Nicholson, Jon D'Amore, and guests. These discussions do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which they have been affiliated now or will be in the future. The opinions expressed are solely theirs, and since they are critically thinking human beings, these views are subject to change, subject to revision, and subject to rethinking at any time. These conversations are not meant to be taken as advice and are only for the purpose of entertainment. All statements may be based on hearsay and not necessarily valid proof of any claims in this video. It is not our intention to teach or advise on any topic. Unless otherwise noted, all photos are public domain.
Thanks for watching A Slice of Life with Kellie and Jon.